Welcome, everyone, to Sysco Canada's live kitchen show. We are very, very, very happy to have back, once again, Chef Francois and Matt Ratuski from Floating Leaf Foods. We are happy. Welcome, gentlemen.
Morning, Jay.
Good morning.
Morning. Morning, guys. How you doing?
Excellent.
Excellent. So, Matt, we're going to talk a little bit today about wild rice, and chefs create some amazing recipes. We talked about them a little bit yesterday. But we'd love to hear a little bit about Floating Leaf before we kick off, who you are, what you do. You're Canadian.
Yeah.
You're missing your plaid shirt today.
Yeah, yes. It's in the laundry.
It's in the laundry, but we want to hear a little bit about it. So why don't you share a little bit, and then we'll move over to Chef. But you don't get a long time here to do a long spiel. So
yeah, we'll make it quick. Our family's been in the wild rice and grain business. We started out in 1935, so for 4 generations, I've been working with Canadian First Nations and farmers to bring wild rice, lentils, grains, Canadian grown quinoa, hemp, and such into the food service market. All of our products are non-GMO, most part gluten-free as well, vegan, and unseasoned. So basically, chefs can get really creative with them. We source as close to home as possible and as sustainably as possible. And our catch line is add life to your meal naturally.
Nice. I like that tagline. That's a good one.
Yeah, I love it.
That's a keeper. Awesome. Well, Chef, our guest chef today, Chef Francois from Forward Food. I hope I said that right.
You did. Forward Food is our program. It's a program from the Humane Society of Canada, and we're a culinary resource program. So we do menu development, recipe consultation, food training, all sorts of services that are free and promoting plant-based food. So I've got a number of great plant-based recipes that we're going to cover here today. And we're going to be starting off with some crispy quinoa cakes. So quinoa is this beautiful grain. It grows here in Canada in this variety, which is very tiny compared to other South American quinoas, but it's perfect for this application. It's nice and light and fluffy. So what we're going to do is we're going to toss it in with some breadcrumbs, and we're going to mix in some flax seeds. So normally, if you're making a rice cake, a quinoa cake, any sort of little patty, you need something to bind it together. Traditionally, that would have been an egg. But in plant-based cooking, a common egg substitute is ground flax seeds. So you mix ground flax seeds with water, and it forms a gel. It's got a water retention property that just turns it very gelatinous. And in a baking recipe, in a recipe like this, it's perfect to just hold it together. So we're going to add that to our quinoa.
That's awesome, Chef. I had no idea that flax that could be used as a binding agent.
Yeah, you have to grind it to do it, right? You have to break apart the seeds. And when you do that, it's really important to do it like fresh on the spot. So you take some whole flax seeds, grind them right away, and then that'll be your mix. Once they're ground, as you know, they're really rich in omega acid. They're very fatty, right? So if they're left out, they can go rancid. So always, if you're using ground flax seeds, always take a little whiff and make sure that they haven't gone rancid. And if they're good, then they're good to go for a binding agent. You just have to mix them with water and let them sit 5-10 minutes. You'll notice it'll get really gelatinous right away.
Do you have to use hot water?
Lukewarm is fine. It doesn't have to be hot or warm. It'll just soak up the water. That's what it does.
Awesome.
So I got that.
Is that normal? Is that normal to have flaxseed go bad, Chef?
Yeah, any nuts really, or seeds, because they're oily. If they're ground, they can go rancid if they're left out in the open, right? So once you have ground nuts or ground seeds, you can close them and refrigerate them. You can keep them for a few days, maybe a week. You always have to smell to check. But a ground nut or a ground seed, because of its oily content, can go rancid, and it's always something to watch out for.
Yeah, we recommend it floating leaf, especially with our hemp seeds as well. Once you open up that Ziploc bag, that you store them in the fridge as well. preserve them as an oil seed.
Does that help it, Matt? Like they last longer? I have my hemp seeds right now in the fridge.
Yeah, that's where they should be. And then in your mouth.
And then in my mouth, okay. Damn, I wish my dad was still alive because he used to keep his nuts out on the table.
So we've got our quinoa mix here done. We're going to fry it right away. What's great about this, whenever you're frying any grain or nut, you'll get these nice little crackly popping sounds, right? Quinoa, because it's so small, will get really crispy on the outside here.
Say crisp up pretty quick.
Very quick, because we're doing them very thin, right? You don't want this to be thick like a patty. We're going for a crispy little wafer that makes a really nice side. We spiced it up. I've added some Anaheim peppers along with a bit of lemon, so they've got a nice flavor to it. Alternatively, what you can do when you're cooking your quinoa prior to doing this, you can flavor the quinoa to the spices that you want. So in this case, we're going really spicy, right? I want this to really, really drive the flavor home. Quinoa's got a great flavor on its own, right? It's got a nice nuttiness to it, but giving it some spice is really going to take this into a whole other direction. It's going to be quinoa like you've never tried it before.
Right on. Yeah, that quinoa they're using there is actually grown in Ontario. So that's Canadian grown quinoa. We work hands-on with the farmers with that. Quinoa, just to note as well, is a complete plant-based protein on its own, which is pretty awesome. Meaning it has all the amino acids in there. And
Matt, is there other places in the world that quinoa is grown? Because
you betcha, yeah. So primarily it's part of a Bolivian and Peruvian diet that's up in the Andes, and they started to cultivate it in Canada and the U.S. I mean, I believe in the 70s. But more it's became mainstream. Canada has become a huge producer of quinoa now, and they export basically all over the world.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they use it a lot. Canadian quinoa also into flours and such for baking.
Yeah, you hear it more and more.
Yeah. Everyone thought it was going to be a quick trend with quinoa, but I mean, it just continues to build. It's such, like Chef said, such a nutty flavor to it. Super easy to handle and cook, and I mean, awesome nutritional value. And then the diversity, like Chef making these crisps today, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So here we go. They fry up very quickly, and what's great is they hold a really nice. They get very firm, right? If you keep them thin, they crisp up great. I really want to just dig into this, but we're going to make a nice dish out of it. We're going to serve it with a citrusy slaw, and I'm going to roast some corn here to top it off.
That looks awesome.
Yeah, roasted corn goes really well with quinoa, right? We're going heavy on the grains here, but the flavors work really well together.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, right. The sweetness of the corn and the nuttiness of the quinoa.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of ways to serve this. I'm going to just lay a bed of citrus slaw that I made here, and then you can just float the little quinoa wafer on top because it holds its own. You can cut it up, you can serve it all sorts of ways. My corn, I don't want to pop it, I just want to give it some color. But a quinoa wafer like that, it really takes a side of quinoa into a whole other level, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've never even seen anything like that. That's fantastic.
Now, this one here is going to be for me.
I love all of our shows. We typically have our guests make lunch for their family, so it's good, Chef. It's awesome.
Good for the family. Awesome presentation.
So, Matt, do you see grains like this being more and more, and your products being more and more of the center of the plate, opposed to always on the side?
Absolutely, they are. It's economical, it's healthy, super versatile, right? I mean, chefs using grains, I mean, they're unseasoned. These are raw that we grow right here in our soil. So you can create them into all sorts of different dishes, super easy to handle. Like when you think about quinoa, for instance, everyone used to use the absorption method, like 1 cup of quinoa to 1.5 cups of water kind of thing. Now what you see is cooking it like pasta. And so basically boiling water, throw it in 10 to 12 minutes, strain it out. What you end up with is a more poppier quinoa. I'm not gonna like Tabico, but it doesn't get as mushy, and therefore the presentation, especially in a colder application, it's the way to cook it for sure, like pasta, and then cool it down under cold water, just as you would noodles.
Do you see more people using this in seasons? Is there different things as we get into the fall season here?
Well, I mean, with chef's application, I mean, I think that's awesome for any time of year. But when you move out of just doing for salads, I mean, the bowl concept is not going away. It's been out there for a while, and you're seeing lots of quinoa being used, whether you're mixing the quinoa with other grains or rices, to add some nutrition, add some flavor, that nuttiness that Chef was talking about. So I believe it has a home year round for sure. Right now, actually, we're just into harvesting, lentils, peas, quinoa, wild rice. So all of that's going on right now. That'll carry us through the next 12 months.
Wow, pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Chef?
All right. Well, now we're going to be moving on to a savory strudel. So what I've done here is I've gone ahead and started frying some onions, and we're going to be adding some mushrooms. And last but not least, I cooked a nice pot of black lentils. I did these in veggie broth, so they've got a lot of flavor. We're really going full savory on this because strudels often come in sweet varieties, or at least that's a common association. But as a main dish, a big chunk of nice savory strudel served with a great sauce really holds its own, right? We're going to have lentils, you're going to have the pastry, you're going to have onions, mushrooms, we're going to add some nuts. It's going to be a really full package meal. So I'm going to finish chopping up some mushrooms to add. We're going to cook all that together with some herbs and spices. And once it's all sauteed, we're going to roll it into a strudel pastry.
Would that be similar to a mushroom duxelle, Chef?
Very similar, yeah. But the main thing we're doing here is the lentils. The lentils are going to fill up the bulk of the strudel.
Any specific mushroom, Chef, or just?
Well, today I'm using shiitake, but any mushroom will do here because the bulk of the flavor is going to come from the herbs and spices we're adding. When you're frying them up in the pan like this, you don't have to cook them fully because they're going to cook for a long time in the oven. So I'm going to go ahead and add my lentil mixture right now. Make sure it's as drained as possible. Okay, now we're just going to spice this up. Some pepper, some salt.
Matt, the health benefits must be enormous with this stuff.
Oh, you betcha. Yeah, I mean, a plant-based diet. I mean, everyone hears the craze of it. The rest of the world's been eating this way for, since the beginning of time. But yeah, no, lentils are a great source of protein, vitamins, and minerals. Extremely easy to cook, that earthy flavor that Chef's talking about. These particular black belugas that Chef's using, they hold up their shape so well as opposed to a red or a flat green lentil.
Yeah.
So it's an awesome presentation. And what Chef's doing here, I mean, this is my first time seeing something like this, so I'm pretty excited.
Okay, so our mix is going to simmer here on low heat. Like I said, it doesn't have to cook fully through because it's going to go in the oven for a while. But we're going to move on to the pastry and get that ready. So we're using a store-bought puff pastry in this case. And yes, it is plant-based. I know traditionally these are made with butter, but you'd be very surprised if you look at what's available either from wholesale distributors or in the grocery stores these days. A lot of these pastries now are made with vegetable shortening.
Really?
So, yeah, it's just a really easy way to have a nice plant-based dish. The key, because it comes frozen, is that you can't let it thaw too long. Whether it's butter or vegetable shortening, if it gets too liquidy, it's not going to hold and bake as it would. So if it's been out on the counter too long, throw it back in the freezer, let it firm up a little, just enough so that you can work the dough, but that it's still cold. The next thing you should always do, because this comes pre-rolled, is just iron out the wrinkles in it. It'll come in a plastic wrap, and it can often leave a little texture on the dough that you want to get rid of. You really don't want to flatten this too much, right? You're just kind of softening out the surface so that we have a nice finished result. If you flatten it too much, it's not going to puff up and bake the way it should. But now,
So cool.
we're going to fill this. I've got about a 10 by 12 square here. Of course, this is going to yield at least 4 portions. And I've worked with this in some restaurants where we can make massive, really long ones of these. You can really stretch this out. We're making a smaller one today, but you'll see how many portions we get out of it. It's impressive.
And how long did you say you're going to bake it for, Chef?
Okay, so that's a very good point. I'm glad you asked that, because baking puff pastry can be a little challenging. It's not like other baked dishes, you can stick a toothpick in them to see if they're done, but you can't really do that with puff pastry.
Yeah.
So when you bake it, you start it off relatively hot at like 425 for a good 10 minutes. In those 10 minutes, that's when it's going to puff up and get its shape. After that, you bring it down a notch. You bring it back to 375 and finish off the cooking. Now that cooking time is going to vary, right? If I were using little pastry dishes, they don't take very long to bake. In this particular case, we're going to be folding this over and rolling it together. So those folded in parts of pastry, you really want to make sure they're fully cooked through, right? You don't want layers that are still uncooked dough. It's going to ruin the dish. It doesn't taste good. And you don't digest it very well either. So this one stays in the oven for a total of 45 to 50 minutes. Specifically because when we roll it over, and we'll do that right now, you tuck it back, similar to how you would a burrito, and you fold it over so that the folded seam is on the bottom. That's the part that you really want to make sure it's baked through. Now I'm gonna just cut off the extra dough here. And on the sides, I'm gonna do a similar thing. I'm gonna tuck in the bottom and fold over so that the seam is on the bottom. Those layers that are folded are going to bake together, and it'll be a seamless baking result. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, good on you.
Yeah. All right, the finishing touch here, because it's a strudel, we're going to give it some nice little cuts down the middle. This will help release some of the moisture that's inside so that it doesn't get too soggy inside, and it'll have a nice finished result. You're going to throw this, lift very gently onto a baking sheet. And because we're going all in on egg substitutes, we're going to use an alternative to egg wash. In this case, we're using oil. But when it comes to plant-based alternatives to egg washes, there are a ton of them out there. You could use a plant-based milk. You could use all sorts of different oils. Olive oil here is great because it's just going to work well with the flavors we already have. And I'm going to sprinkle a bit of salt and spices on top for some extra flavor. And that's going to go in the oven at 425 for the first 10 minutes.
Good.
Now, we're not going to wait 45 minutes for that to be ready. I've got the one that I prepped a little while ago.
I'm enjoying this. I can go for
I was going to say, I know Ratuski because we've been around for a while together. We could talk for 45 minutes if you like, Chef.
We sure can. It's been 15
Our
years.
viewers may not like that, though. Oh, cool. Look at this.
Wow.
The size of this one, this is roughly the same size. So a good portion on this, in my opinion, is at least an inch wide. I could even serve up 2 of these. You get a nice cross. You can see the mushrooms and lentils inside. And of course, that pastry dough has to be fully cooked through. A good test for that is simply to touch the pastry. If it starts flaking apart, it's usually done. And you know what's going to make this a really great dish is we're going to top this with a little plant-based aioli I whipped up on the side. I'm going to serve it face down.
That color is awesome.
Yeah, it looks really cool. That is perfect for, I know any time of the year, but coming into the fall.
Yeah.
Beautiful dish for the fall.
Super comforting.
And it's got to be cost effective. Like when you think about this from an operator's perspective or a restaurateur, like we're talking some serious costs, like savings here for them, right? Like to be able to sell that.
Absolutely.
Very amazing.
Lentils, in terms of cost effectiveness, I don't think anything can beat lentils.
No.
But yeah, this
water
tone as a main dish. You know, you've got a complete protein as we talked about, and served with a nice salad on the side. This is a great fall recipe.
That's super hearty, right? I mean, with those lentils and mushrooms and the pastry, I mean, you're going to be full after that dish. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't hesitate when you're serving this. Don't go for a little thin slice. You can cut off a nice block. But this is delicious. The pastry's great. It's crispy. It's flaky. The filling is savory, and there's different textures in there with the mushrooms and lentils. You're hitting a lot of notes with this dish.
And chef, you could actually even take that same similar concept and do like a pot pie as well, right? With using that kind of mixture inside of it, and then just having, like, I can just see that same kind of thing with the half pastry and a pot pie using the same ingredients.
Yeah, absolutely. Vegetarian pot pies have been around for a little while, and putting lentils in them is a surefire way to get a really thick, like, filling dish.
Yeah, that's great.
Getting some feedback on your mic there, Jay.
I'm getting feedback. I'm getting crackling.
Yeah.
It's so sensitive. It might be it's my mind. It's crackling.
Yeah, maybe. It's interesting with the lentils. I just want to point out there too is that Canada is the world's #1 producer of lentils. You know, we supply basically the whole world here. So using lentils in dishes in Canada, you know, I would like to think would be a no-brainer. Supporting Canadian farmers, they're super good, easy to handle, cost-effective.
It's not always been like that though. When has that shifted? Like when have we taken the crown on that? That's fairly recent because I've seen a lot of farmers switch over to lentils.
No, yeah, it's been that way to my knowledge for quite some time.
Oh, okay.
That's nothing new.
But it's more farmers are harvesting lentils nowadays than before, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's more there. They're a drought resistant crop as well for growing them. So farmers do like to grow them, and it's a great crop. The demand continues to increase, therefore it makes sense for them to plant it.
Cool. Sorry, I asked the difficult questions. Sorry about that.
All right. I'm set up here. I've got a double boiler here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a very nice riceberry rice, and we're going to cook it in this coconut milk. And we're going to make a rice pudding out of it. Okay, so this is a technique my grandmother used to cook with for rice pudding. On a double boiler, you get a really creamy result for the rice. And this black riceberry that we're using has a really rich color, so it's going to end up with a very, very dark purple finish. We're going to make it very sweet. We're going to use some vanilla. We're going to use some cardamom, a bit of sugar, and a bit of nutmeg. And that's going to make beautiful rice pudding.
That's awesome. Riceberry rice, chef. Have you worked with riceberry rice before?
I have, but this time I really wanted to try it in this rice pudding because rice is so often a savory dish, right? And I wanted to change things up a little. And rice pudding is a dish that's been around forever. It's across the world. There's Indian cooking. This was a French Canadian recipe that my grandmother used to make.
Awesome.
You know, it's been around for a really long time. But I really wanted to do it with this rice because the color is so strong, right? You get this really intense, like almost black. It's on the shade of dark purple color.
Yeah,
so we're gonna plate it up with a bunch of bright fruits, and it's really gonna make this dish pop.
Sounds delicious. Yeah,
Matt, can you hear me better? Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, you sound better, Jay. Thanks. Nice to have you back.
Sorry, I was
Nice to co-host.
having a mic moment. Well, thank you for everyone else that texted me in Canada. We're good. We're good now. Thank you. I love that people help. It's awesome.
Riceberry rice, actually, it only grows in Thailand, and it's a cross hybrid between a black jasmine and another strain of jasmine, and it's super rich in antioxidants. It's very, very healthy. In Thailand, eating as a side dish all the time instead of white rice, and that was developed to be more health conscious.
Yeah.
The neat thing about it is it's healthier than brown rice even, but it cooks like white rice. So if you're cooking it as a side dish or to add into something, you're 20, 25 minutes, not that 45, 50 minutes. The presentation, like Chef's saying, is this wonderful, deep purple color. It's also referred to, riceberry rice, as purple jasmine. Some also say it's an ancient rice, just because of its appearance and its health benefits. But it has a really nutty, tender, kind of sweet texture to it, and loaded, like I said, with antioxidants. So it's a wonderful product. We don't grow it anywhere in Canada or in the United States, so it's coming specifically from Thailand. I go over there basically twice a year to see the farmers. We're hands-on with them, making sure sustainable practices in growing. Wow.
And it's got a really great texture to it, right? In a pudding like this, it's almost reminiscent of a tapioca pudding. It's got a little poppy, crunchy feel to it. Even though we slow cooked it on the double boiler to get it really nice and creamy and well cooked, it still holds its texture really well. And so again, served with some bright fruits, that purple color really makes it pop, and it looks beautiful and tastes amazing. Rice pudding is one of my favorites.
We can't tell.
Yeah, we'll change the camera, and he'll be diving right into it. Matt, watch. So Matt, so I've heard the riceberry. Let's see it again, Chef. We also, do you have it raw, non-cooked there?
Non-cooked rice? Yeah. Actually,
or did you cook it all?
I finished it all in this double boiler.
Okay. No worries. I just want to see, but thank God, because Matt's got a website we're going to talk about. And is it on there, Matt?
Absolutely. So at eatwildrice.ca, and you go to buy our products tab there. We just finished actually creating a tab there that says food service. You go on here and you'll have over 35 different grains, rices, most of them whatever we can source from Canada. But if you scroll down, there's our blends. We do custom blending for restaurants as well. Further down into the rice section there, you'll see the riceberry rice, which is the bottom right corner. You can click on Jay. You can go on here and you can click on these. They're going to give you the nutritionals. They're going to give you some product highlights, rich in antioxidants, sustainable, non-GMO, whole grain, all that stuff. So there's the actual raw grains. So basically it's kind of like a purple, blacky, brown color.
That's really cool, Matt. Beautiful.
Yeah, we're excited for it. Actually, on the news on CTV across Canada, they just this past 2 weeks, and also the Sun newspapers have been promoting the health benefits of riceberry rice.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Like I said, super easy to cook, right? Just like white rice, so it's kind of nice.
And it's been around for a long time, Matt. It's just new to our culture.
Over here in Canada, no, it's just over the last couple of years. It's a relatively new hybrid, which doesn't mean like it's genetically modified. Basically just kind of cross-pollinate two different jasmine plants to get this going, basically to create the world's healthiest rice.
That's really cool, Matt.
But the website, you click on any one of those icons and they're going to give you nutritionals and all that fun stuff, and then head over to Sysco.
Beautiful.
Yeah, there's black belugas that we got going on in the Canadian.
And you got also where they're growing too. That's kind of cool.
Absolutely. Well, we at Floating Leaf, we believe in educating the customers, consumers, however you want to call them. There's so much to offer out there in diversity. Everyone thinks rice is rice. Well, it's not. There's lots of options out there: colors, stories, tastes, textures. A chef would know.
Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful products. Nice website too, Matt.
Thank you.
Chef, back to you.
Well, that covers most of the recipes we're going to do for today. We're going to cover one last little thing, because we just got to look at all these beautiful grains and legumes that you can find. And included on that website are a bunch of sprouted ones. And that, personally, I love sprouting grains and lentils as well. So I've done a little demo here of how you can do that if you're interested in sprouting them at home. It varies depending on what you're going to do, but in general, you're just going to soak your grains or lentils for about 8 to 24 hours, depending on what you're doing. And then you need an aerated jar that, so you can use cheesecloth, you can use a wire mesh, there's even prefabricated stuff, as long as it can breathe. So you drain out the water and you let your lentils sit. And as long as the airflow is good, within 48 hours, you'll have some sprouted lentils. And those are really, really potent. They're essentially raw, but you've unlocked a bunch of their nutritional values simply by sprouting them.
Oh, this is so cool.
Yeah, sprouting goes back. I mean, for my research, what I've done over the past is it started in China basically in like 1280 BC. And there, the whole idea was to unlock out of, when you're sprouting like a lentil, for instance, to unlock all of the more nutritional, easier for your body to digest as well. At Floating Leaf, we do sprouting, and then we air dry them, and we make them into our multi-grain blends. It also helps with speeding up the cooking of that, so you can pair it with other ingredients like quinoa or brown rice or rice-berry rice, which is pretty awesome as well.
That's really cool, Matt. And what a different way to do different things with that product. And just add a total different new experience and value. Love it. Sorry, Chef, over to you. Let's see.
Yeah, this is a little salad. We've got some sunflower sprouts here. These are sprouted. We've got our lentil sprouts that have little tails. I mix it in with some beets for color. And what you get here is a really energizing dish, right? When you talk about sprouted lentils and grains, if you eat one of these, you'll feel a boost in energy. This is really popular in fitness. You can use them in all sorts of energy conscious meals because they're really uplifting.
Yeah, you see them lots in baking as well, right? Throwing them into breads and such.
Really?
Absolutely. Sprouted grains and breads add a lot of nutritional value.
Yeah, you'll find that even in your grocery store. You'll see sprouted loaves of bread, just in conventional grocery stores now. So it is becoming a little bit more mainstream as well, as people are becoming more health conscious.
Brilliant. Love it.
Yeah, that looks awesome.
Incredible. That's a great idea. I'm just thinking of different ways to add different options to menus. Whew, I'd be all over that. Pretty cool. Well, thanks again, Chef. This has just been outstanding.
Thank you, Chef.
Matt, I've always said I love your products, Matt. I've always have, and they're just incredible. And obviously, we can see them more and more in dishes everywhere across Canada. But I think we got to get people out there putting them on there. It's a different value. There's lots of savings here. A lot of value for the consumer. Cost effective. It's beautiful. Beautiful products, Matt.
Yeah, it's awesome to be partnered up with Chef at the Humane Society. I mean, we believe in those causes, so it's absolutely great.
Yeah. Well, awesome. I love sharing all the creative things you can do with these ingredients. You can really, really broaden your horizons, whether it's sprouting lentils or transforming quinoa into a crispy cake like that. The sky's the limit when it comes to this stuff.
We have a few people here just from Halifax. Great presentation. Thanks, Dana. Sorry. Thanks for the mic update too. Sorry. There's a few comments on my mic. Darn, it was a new mic. It was working so well. Anyways, but thanks to everyone that watched the show today. And gentlemen, outstanding job today. And just thanks for all the ideas, Chef. I just love them. And I'll be sprouting tonight. So I'm going to try it. But,
thanks for having me.
You bet. And Matt, thanks again for your time as well today. And for everyone else, check out Floating Leaf at eatwildrice.ca. Right, Matt?
You got it.
Right. Let's get out there. So for everyone else, we have another show tomorrow on our virtual kitchen show. And watch them. We got a ton on Facebook. And this is today. Actually, you guys are number 60 today. The big 60 on our show. So congratulations.
to be on our
show. We'll celebrate later. But yeah, no, thanks again. And we have one more show tomorrow, and then we'll be back next week with more shows. So continuing till Christmas, I think, and beyond. So all the best to everyone else, and have a great day. Get out there, support restaurants, and eat out at a restaurant today because they need our help, and especially going into the fall and winter. All right. Thanks, Scout.
Okay.
Take care, guys.
Take care.